Welcome to episode 12 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast presented by Novig. I'm your host, Johnny Lazarus, joined by my good friends, longtime NHL reporter Arthur Staple and Stanley Cup champion Mike Rupp. Fellas, lots to get into this morning. Three really good games between all three teams. The Rangers went in overtime last night. The Islanders fall short against Detroit in a one-goal game, and the Devils play a really fun, low-scoring overtime game as well against Vegas. So three really entertaining, different kinds of style games that we watched from our teams over this week, and we're going to dive into all three. But today we're going to start with the New Jersey Devils. But before we do, just want to ask the two of you how you're doing. Holiday spirit getting up. We will only have one show next week. Next Friday we will not have a show. I want to get that out of the way. But yeah, how you guys feeling this morning? Friday morning, rainy day, nothing better.
How's the shopping done, boys? You guys got it, or are we hustling?
I wish it was.
Yeah,
making my third trip to the mall in 3 days today. That'll hopefully be the last one.
Oh no! So you're nice and ornery in this for this episode.
Rupper, you know the drill. When you have kids that don't shop for themselves, you got to get stuff that you're giving out. You got to get stuff that they're giving out. It never ends.
Is Secret Santa still a thing in the NHL, or is that just junior hockey in college? Do guys do Secret Santa?
It was hit or miss. I mean, no, not really. But the odd team, you'd always try to come up with something to do. But yeah, not so much. No, I think that I definitely did that in junior, and I did it in the American League. Didn't do it in the NHL though.
Mm-hmm.
What's the worst gift you ever got? Either of you? What was the worst Secret Santa teammate gift you got?
I mean, Secret Santa in juniors was literally just be anti-Semitic or give you something that's a sex toy. Like that was the only two things that I like. It was either like I was either receiving some sort of like Jewish thing or like that's just how kids are, I guess. Maybe not the.
You've opened up a whole can of worms for the whistleblower line at the NHL.
Yeah, so maybe it's very good they don't do this in the NHL.
Yeah,
so.
Well,
I'm happy they've discontinued it.
Oh, well, it's not like you get each other nice gifts when you're playing junior hockey. Don't make
no. You spend
$20.
Yeah, you get dumb things. You make fun of them, and it's like a free pass, obviously, because no one knows who it's coming from. So you could say something that everybo's thinking, but nobody will say.
Yeah, that's literally how every year when I opened a Secret Santa gift, I was like, "What Jew joke is this going to be?" But that's just how it was in the locker room, But I always took it like my teammates are my teammates. They're my best friends. Like it's all good fun. Now we've got on a side tangent here. Let's talk Devils. So Brett Pesce returns. He played great. He played like 24 minutes in his first game too. And there was one shift you saw him kind of, arm on the bench, huffing and puffing. Like, he was feeling it in the first game back. But that performance by Jake Allen, I feel like we're going to get into a goaltending conversation here. Like what a battle between Jake Allen and Carter Hart. I thought the Devils played a really strong offensive game. Like the amount of chances they had in the slot that didn't go in. I don't know how they didn't finish, but that seems to be the case. The Devils not being able to score, but Jake Allen, I thought won them that game. What did you guys make of that game in Vegas the other night?
Go ahead, Arthur.
I mean, it kind of not fully of a piece of the previous two. I like the way that they've been defending. I mean, Allen can't, whatever it was, 37 saves. So that's big. But these last three games, I think even the Vancouver game where they kind of fumbled it away early with the 2 power play goals and really couldn't recover offense wise. They just seem to have found a little cohesion defensively. And obviously Brett Pesce being back adds to that. And we always talk about it's not necessarily the guy. Like Brett Pesce is an elite defender, but he puts everybody else in the right spot. You've got Luke Hughes now with pairing with a guy who's a little bit more reliable. Brendan Dillon back down to the third pair. Colton White's been pretty good, in that number 6 defenseman role. So suddenly you've got 3 pairs that are the way that they're supposed to look, which hasn't looked that way for 2 months, and their results and their chances and the goals they've given up reflect that. And they can get on offense a little bit more too with a guy like Pesce, who's just, he's kind of that classic, 2, 3, 4 defenseman in the NHL where you don't notice him a ton. And that's the best compliment you can pay to a guy like that, where it's just things are smooth in transition. He's taking pucks off guys. He's clearing the front of the net out, just doing all those little things. And it makes such a big difference. That was a game. They were super competitive. Obviously, if you don't have that kind of performance from Jake Allen and it's his second really good one in a row. He was really good against Anaheim too after 3 clunkers, and the way that Markstrom's been playing pretty erratic. They needed all of it, and the fact that they still needed a ridiculous Jesper Bratt shootout goal to win it shows how much of a struggle they've been in to score. But I think for them, for Sheldon Keefe, you get this guy back, suddenly team defense is looking a lot better. And I'm sure Rupper can point out that Simone Nemitz has also been the guy that's been the odd, he's been injured and he's on IR now. So it's going to be a little while. But since he's been out, overall, their team defense just seems a little bit more reliable. And that to me is how you're going to muddle through until Jack is back, that you win the close games, you're going to win ugly, get some good goaltending. And just when Jack comes back, you just sort of look at the standings and say, we're 2 points out, we're 3 points out, we're 3 points up. We didn't lose it completely. We didn't lose the plot. And to me, that's where they are. And they got Brett Pesce back, and it's obviously huge.
It was a huge win because they're on this like kind of short 2-game trip here. They got Utah tonight, and they simply just need to win. They need to get good juju inside that room, and I think having Pesce back adds that immediately. But it slots everybody appropriately, and we say that a lot, and we use that a lot. Maybe you even overuse it. And what I mean by that is like Brendan Dillon is I love his game. He's valuable in a lot of different ways, and he can elevate and take on more when you ask him to. But that should be a stopgap. It can't be something long term. And now when you get a Pesce back in there, now Dilly's in his proper spot, and everyone kind of can find and really understand what their role is. So, I mean, I'm just using him as an example. It can go throughout the whole D core, and it goes up to the forwards too when you have injuries. So I thought adding him back in there just seemed to give them a little bit of a calming influence. I thought they played really well. I thought Carter Hart played really well.
He was unreal.
But Jake Allen was phenomenal. It was actually a really, really good. It was a high tempo. It's a fun game to watch when there's not many goals. And so Jake Allen, though, was the story for me. And that's the story for me right now, because I think you got to ride him here for a bit. I think, and this is where it gets a little tough, because I want to say this first. So watching that, so post-game, TNT has Jake Allen on, and a really cool conversation between Henrik Lundqvist and him. And he's just kind of, they're just talking shop. And it was funny because I was watching the game, and then even in the shootout, and I could break down a goalie, but nowhere near as good as a goalie can break down a goalie. And there's things that I can go to a certain level, then I'm like, I don't know, stop the puck. You know what I mean? Like, but when I listen to goalies speak, it's intriguing. It's unbelievable. And so, anyways, when I'm watching that game, I'm thinking to myself, man, Jake is so patient. He's like, one of those things you've always learned as a player, as a little kid, like when you get in one-on-one isolated situations, like outweight the goalie, have some patience, and all this. He's patient in gameplay. He's patient in shootouts, and that's something that I was thinking. And then Henrik brings that up first thing with Jake. I'm like, oh shit, I know what I'm talking about for a hot second. Goaltenders. But anyway, so Hank asks him that, and then like that's something that it was just really fascinating hearing Jake Allen speak. So I don't think we get this from professional athletes a lot, where they admit their weaknesses or limitations. And Jake's like, well, I'm not the most athletic, flexible guy. I rely upon instinct, patience, and all these. It's just really, really interesting conversation between these two guys. So he was fantastic. And for me, though, guys, this is what kind of want you guys to chime in too, because I think this is where it gets tricky. So you have this goaltending tandem, both guys mid-30s. They've seen a lot of ups and downs in the NHL, and that is a strength of the Devils. I think you need to lean into that strength. And right now, it's very clear that Jake Allen is playing better hockey than Jacob Markstrom. There's nothing wrong with that. I still think Jacob Markstrom is your number one. And wherever this team ends up at the end of the season or in the playoffs, to maximize where you're going to be, I think it has to be a healthy Jacob Markstrom. But that's just not the situation right now. Not healthy. I don't even mean healthy. I mean healthy in his gameplay as well. But that's not there. So I think you got to lean into Jake. That's why you have this experienced group. But this is the human nature side of it that I start thinking about. And I think it's real, because you've got to manage. Coaches have to manage players. And the whole psyche, the morale, all that stuff goes into it too when you're trying to find your game. This Olympic year, Jacob Markstrom's going to be on Team Sweden. If you ride Jake Allen right now and Jacob Markstrom is not playing all that much, if it's like a 3-to-1 ratio, that's going to hurt him being a starter for Team Sweden. Like you got to manage that. He's going to care about that. You know what I mean? He's going to care about the Devils. That's first and foremost right now. But he's also going to care about like, hey, I can't go into the Olympics not playing. So it's a very fascinating thing, and I might be way off. Maybe that conversation is, hey, we got to do what we got to do right here. But I think I would feel torn in some regards. Pressure to get my game back because of the Olympics being around the corner. But right now, for me, it's Jake Allen. You got to ride him.
Well, I think a couple things. First of all, I'll just like read off the stats for Markstrom and Allen just to back it up a little bit too, Rupper, like their last 3 games each. So since December 6th, we're talking about 2 weeks here. Both guys have started 3 games. Allen has actually played in 4 because I think Markstrom got yanked from 1. But Allen is 2-2-0 with a .915 save percentage and a 2.54 goals against. And Markstrom is 1-1 because he got yanked, I guess, and has a .867 and a 3.83. So it is drastic as far as the numbers go. But with Sweden, that's not Sheldon Keefe's concern, right? Like he's playing the guy.
But it's not his concern. And if I'm sitting there thinking, and Devils fans probably are like, screw that. Like,
yeah, who cares?
I don't care.
Well,
I don't care. But that's my point, though. You have to manage the players because he cares
like the
about
personality and the ego. Yeah.
I mean, there's also. I'll jump in and say, this extension that Markstrom got, and Devils fans are like, I can't believe we signed this fucking guy for 2 more years, the way that he's been so inconsistent. But I think the Olympics is a separate conversation, and I think that's a hard one for them to have as a team because, if we like we were talking about last week, if Tom Fitzgerald's job is on the line here, if they've got to get in the playoffs this year, he doesn't give a shit about what Team Sweden needs or what Jacob Markstrom needs to prepare for Milan. But the extension, I think, and Jake Allen being signed for a few more years, these are 2 guys that from all accounts, good personalities. They've been around. I think they understand the situation. I think if Markstrom were still a UFA, pending UFA, and there was that added pressure, I think this might be a tougher spot. And I'm not speaking from any knowledge inside that room or anything or in their coach's room. But I feel like Markstrom has to understand that he's not going good. I was just looking it up on Clear Sight Hockey, Steve Valiquette's site. Expect goals saved above expectation. Jake Allen is 12th in the league for the whole year out of 81 goalies. Markstrom is 69th. It's one of the 15 worst goalies in the league so far. And that kind of inconsistency, you cannot win with goalies playing that way. I mean, if you're forced to, you're forced to. So I don't think there's a scenario right now where Jacob Markstrom can go to Sheldon Keefe and say, I'm your man. Like, let me play my way out of it. That time was a month ago. That was 6 weeks ago. It's gone now. They're cushioned from the 8-1 start, long gone. So yeah, I think there's so many pieces of evidence that say Jake Allen's got to get a little burn here, and you've got the holiday break coming up too, so maybe that's a chance for a complete reset. Everybody goes away after they play a couple more games and comes back, and then maybe you can kind of divvy it up the way you want to divvy it up coming out of the break. But yeah, it's hard for me to see it any other way than Rupper saying it, that Jake Allen's got to be your guy here for a little while just to get some stability. It's the one thing that they need. They got to get their mojo back, and they started it the other night, and they got to keep it going.
Let me ask you this though, Rupper. And again, I don't know if you can necessarily allude to it perfectly because you weren't a goalie, but it seems like they could create some sort of internal competition here where Allen has the net until he loses it, then Markstrom has the chance to win it, and Markstrom will have the net until he loses it, and you kind of go back and forth. But in that, it's not like the goalies are working together. It's like, okay, now it's my chance. And then once that guy fucks up, then it's like, okay, now it's my chance. And maybe that creates this weird dynamic in goal. Whereas I feel like when a team has a 1-2 punch, it's like, all right, this guy will get these 2 games this week. I'll get my game, and I got to be on my game when it's my chance. And that creates more of like a good tandem. So I don't know if you've experienced what I'm saying here.
These guys though, like, Kind of
Because
two.
they
It's
have
hard to
split the
point.
net pretty evenly this year. It's 18 or it's 17 starts for Allen and 16 starts for Markstrom, even though Markstrom
So
was hurt a little bit.
they've got their deals in place. Like this is all stuff where I think they're veteran. Like they've seen it all. They've seen true competition for a starter in net. They've had times that they've had the ups and downs of playing goaltender in the NHL. I think that it's something where it's funny. Corey Schneider was talking about this yesterday, and Schneider's one of the nicest dudes I've met. And you have that goaltender relationship, and you got each other's back, and you're on the same team. They realize that
Mhm.
but you also have to have that inner drive where if you get in there, I mean, you've got to think this is an opportunity for me. So if you don't look at it that way, how do you really take advantage or elevate? But yeah, I mean, I don't think it will ever be an issue between these two because I think Jacob Markstrom is one of those guys. Like I'm a big Jacob Markstrom fan in his career. I think he's got good self-evaluation of where his game is at, and he's very prideful. You saw him the other day. He looked like a serial killer in his post game. His eyes
Yeah.
were popping out of his head. Like he didn't like. I won't even say he didn't like the question. He hates that he has to answer that he's not playing to his level. And some of it, in some regards, too, for Markey is there's been some inconsistency in his game. But then the odd time when he gets in, and I'm thinking, man, they got to win. They got to win this game. Like Markey needs to start feeling some good juju. And it's just like one of those games where the team doesn't show up for 40 minutes. It's not even like
Mhm.
his fault, but it just keeps adding and snowballing. So I don't think it's a thing or will be a thing, but it's a fair conversation. And I think if you're Jake Allen, like let's go. That's like you every competitive player, and that's what you are. Like you want to get some run and you want to go with it, and it's a great problem to have. But that's why you went and you have these two guys, and it's not like you've got an inexperienced um, kind of career minor leaguer is your backup goaltender. Like let's lean into this a little bit. I think the Devils will.
Mhm. And one last thing on the Devils, or two last things. Vic informed me that the Devils are 9-1-0 this year when Pesce's in the lineup. So obviously good to have Pesce in.
Seems good.
And I think I didn't watch the point, I guess, last night, but apparently on the point, Emily Kaplan said Jack has a doctor's appointment next week, and she doesn't believe his absence will extend into January. I'm not sure if you guys have heard anything
Wow.
on the Jack front, but
Did you hear
I love
Luke?
Emily and I trust Emily. So
Luke
Yeah.
Luke got interviewed. This is totally reading between the lines, but Luke got interviewed pregame Vegas at the bench interview,
mhm.
and he said Jack's right around the corner. So I mean, I was like, what does that mean? I could have very well just meant the normal timeline, but it's me
Yeah.
kind of sitting there like I thought it was kind of interesting that he dropped that.
Yeah. Let me just look at the Devil. I know they're, like you said, Rapper, they're in Utah tonight. Then home against Buffalo Sunday. They're on Long Island on the 23rd. Maybe you're thinking on the 27th after Christmas. That's when he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sit the next three games and then be good
Great.
for post Christmas. I think that's Adam Fox's plan too, to play post Christmas. Because he obviously wants to be in the Winter Classic too on January 2nd. So hopefully, two of our teams see their star players come back here the next couple days. But anything else on the Devils before we move forward here?
Nope.
No?
All good.
Okay. I think we do have some voicemails in regards to the Islanders. So we're going to go into the Islanders next and then finish up today with the Rangers. And Islander fans, we apologize again for last week. We're going to make sure we give you guys the love you deserve this week. But Vic, do you want to queue up one of those voicemails from one of our Islander fans? I believe we have two.
Hey, Arthur. Love your shows. Love your insight. And my question is, if the Islanders are in contention come trade deadline, what do they do with the likes of Pageau, Lee, and company, these older guys? Do we hold on to them for the playoff run and get nothing for them come July 1st? Or are we entering in a direction where we want to get younger and faster? Thank you, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Tim. Arthur,
Got
all
it,
you.
Tim. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in, but a good one. I think when we talk about the Islanders, we talk, especially before the season, we were thinking, all right, they're going to hit a point where They'll be around the cut line. They'll be around 500 if it all goes the way that we think it's going to go with this roster, and then they'll have some serious decisions to make with Pageau, and especially with Anders Lee, who's been the captain, longest-serving captain in franchise history now.
Is that true?
It is. Surpassed Dennis Potvin this season. Yep.
When did he become the captain?
People forget that Clark Gillies was the Islanders captain for a little while heading into that dynasty era. Potvin only got it the year that they won the first cup. So,
I guess post-Tavares, he was the captain, right?
Yep, right after. Yeah. It was one of the best decisions Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz ever made.
Wow.
So they're, these are two loyal guys, two guys that have helped them have some success, that are both having pretty good seasons for their age. But the most obvious trade candidate since they're pending UFAs, and obviously no one has an extension yet. So my feeling is, and it's kind of the same feeling we've had all along here about the Islanders with their unexpected success through the first half of the season, is you got to wait and see where you are right up to the deadline. I'm sure that if they want to have some conversations about short-term extensions with either of them, I don't know if that's the right way you want to go. Anders Lee is 35. JG Pageau, I think, is 33 or 34. But they're both still pretty useful. I mean, it's that they've been on a line together for a lot of the last 2 years, the two of them and Simon Holmstrom. It's a pretty good third line. And I don't know that you're going to find it. It's the constant struggle of the Islanders. If they let those guys go or they trade them, I don't think they're going to trade them if the Islanders are sitting where they are right now. You're going to ride that out, obviously. But if they leave in the summer for nothing, the Islanders don't really have a track record of being able to attract even depth piece free agents who are key members of a winning roster. This is just the reality of being the Islanders. They're not a destination team. So yeah, it's a tough spot. But to answer Tim's question, no, I think if they are where they are, I don't think they consider trading either one of them. And I think that's the right call, because you've had success with them, and sometimes you gotta roll the dice with guys like that. You can't always have an eye on the future, even if it's a season where everything that you do that's good is gravy. I understand you don't want to waver from the plan. And the plan to me is think about the future, but you also want success right now. And they're having the success right now. And those two guys are a part of it. You cannot replace either one of them right now with what they've got internally. So I would say they're going to keep them if they're still in, not just in playoff contention, but sitting where they are in a top 3 spot in the division. And then you kind of roll the dice in the summer. I could see 1-year extensions for both of them. I could see both of them wanting to try something new if they're not getting the term and the money that they want. I understand that they're probably both of them, their first choice is to stay. And I honestly think if this was still Lou's team with the success that they're having, I think one or both of them might have already been extended in a short-term deal. That's the way Lou operated. The loyalty factor was always big for him. Matthew Darche wanted more to wait and see. So I think that's the best we can do right now. It's a really unsatisfying answer, Tim. I'm sorry, but you just kind of have to ride it out. And it's fun to ride it out because of the way that they're playing.
I have a question, if I may, for you, Arthur. Like, fully healthy, if you take Pageau out of the equation, who are the Islanders' 4 centers? Like, are Horvat and Barzal playing center? And then you have Richie and Cizikas. Like, would that be the 4 centers if you remove Pageau from the lineup?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. And
keep going.
No, it's not, I still maintain, and it hasn't really happened this year, I still maintain when push comes to shove, Matthew Barzal is better off as Bo Horvat's winger than he is as their number 2 center. For sure. I agree with that. But also, and Rupper, I know you can talk about Anders Lee specifically because I know you spoke with him the other day on NHL Network. But I think it'd be foolish not to move on from Pageau with how valuable centers are right now. Like, what you can get for Pageau, is he really going to be the guy who helps you win a Stanley Cup in the next 2-3 years? And that's not, like, obviously the goal is a Stanley Cup, but the Islanders' realistic expectations, I feel like, for the next 2 to 3 years is just to become a contender, like, consistently enough, right? And maybe you could argue that they are one right now in the East, because the East is, like we said, it's so mediocre for the most part that the Islanders have been one of the better teams. But
keeping Anders Lee makes more sense than keeping Pageau, just because Lee is the captain. He probably has 2-3 years left max, where Pageau, you can actually get, I think, enough in return if you move on from him. And to me, it'd be foolish not to.
You could, and I'll kick it over to you, Rupper, in a second.
Yeah.
And Rupper can definitely speak to this. If you are in the middle of a playoff hunt, as unexpected as it is, and you trade a key guy, a guy who's one of your core guys in the middle of a playoff chase, and you're getting futures back, you might as well fold up the tent. I think you're sending the wrong message to the room. You know, we talk about it the other way, where they want to. Do you want to reward your guys for playing above expectation and bring in a veteran guy? And maybe if they can do that, if they can swap someone in that's younger, that's maybe a little bit more controllable, that's a different story. But that's a complicated move to make during the season. You subtract a guy who's been there for whatever it is, 7 years now, who's important to the team right now, in the middle of a playoff chase. I don't see how you do that. Especially if you're close enough to the cut line where suddenly a few losses in a row will stagger you in your chances. If you're taking an important piece out of the room and taking away a percentage chance of getting some playoff receipts for the owners, that's a double no for me. I don't know what you think, Rupper.
Yeah. So Pageau is, I agree with all that. Pageau is an interesting one for me because he's one of those players that I don't think you get his full value until you are in the playoffs. Like, this guy is a playoff guy. And I think back to even like that 16-17 run, he was in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And he was
Johnny loves that memory.
That was a long time ago. I get it, but just even think to some of the Islanders' success that they've had in recent years. Like, that guy's the moneymaker in the playoffs because he's unique and he's that shutdown role. He can chip
Kills
in,
penalties.
kills penalties. Like, he's the perfect playoff guy. So it's one of those tough things where, yes, it would hurt your team and not send a great message if you moved him, but at the same rate, if we're looking, that guy would probably get the most return of some of the situational players you have there. So it's that slippery slope. I think they keep him. I mean, what Islanders are doing right now, it's kind of why we were joking around last episode, just said, hey, everything's good. I mean, just ride this thing, man. If this team could still be where they're at right there, I'd eat both of those contracts, not contracts, both of those, walk them to free agency. And if you want to at that time, re-sign them or whatever, you could pivot at that moment. So that's the kind of thing for me. I think Pageau, like, I saw this thing the other day, and I'm not trying to compare the two, but in some ways, there's this Phil Deneau stuff for those that don't know in Los Angeles. Like, they're probably going to be moving Phil Deneau. And remember him when he was in Montreal. It's such a great lockdown guy. He's got 0 goals on the year. It just doesn't look like he's found his game. Some of the numbers the other day were like, legitimately, when he's on the ice, the opponent has 0, like, they don't score. Like, he is the human, eraser as far as defense goes. And so, as bad as you'd look from the surface, oh man, he's got 0 goals for the LA Kings right now. Why would anybody want him? No, that's like, you might be able to get him on a little bit of a low right now. That's the guy. Like, the offense will come in a different situation. That's what I think of with Pageau. Maybe not to that level, and Pageau is not. He does not have 0 goals, but that's one of those players. Like, he brings something different, and I think there'd be a lot of people lining up for JG Pageau.
Yeah, it feels like a missed opportunity for me. Like, are the Islanders winning the cup this year? Like, no. If you're going in a Game 7 series against Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota.
Well, yeah,
you
but
can say that about everybody, though. You can say that about every team unless those teams play each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What constitutes success for the Islanders this year? Is it making it to the second round? Is it making it to the playoffs at all?
I think it's making the playoffs at all.
Then why would you get rid of them?
You know what? If the season ended today, I think it's a success no matter what, with how good Schaefer's been, with how good Barzal's been, with how good Sorokin's been, with how good Horvat's been, Heineman. Like, I think the Islanders season, it's going to be hard to call this a failure unless they totally plummet in the second half. Like, they've been way above expectations this year.
But this will smoke out. Go ahead, finish.
No. And for me, it's like you have to keep the season goal from like September in mind, right? Like the plan was probably to build out your roster to be as competitive as you possibly can be going forward. And hanging on to JG Pageau does not do that, in my opinion. And that's why I'm like, you have a great chance here. The team's been strong. Pageau is a guy where you can really go get more assets and load up for like, look at the Islanders prospect pool that they got overnight, basically. And then if you're thinking about like this Schaefer career, which is probably what they're building around now, right? It's around Matthew Schaefer's career. Like they got the star. They're going to want to have a competitive team when Schaefer is, 23, 24, 25, 20. Like, look what Vancouver just did. They just fucked up Quinn Hughes in their prime. The Islanders don't want to do that. They don't want to see that happen. So if you're going to hang on to Pageau, I feel like that it alters those years.
You need to keep one eye on the future for sure, but it's about, in the NHL, especially for owners, it's about winning games right now and filling your building and getting some playoff receipts.
I think they could still do that though without Pageau. That's why I'm saying, like, if
I just don't know if you're putting your team in that sort of precarious state at the deadline where you're like, hey, everything's been great. We love you guys. Oh, by the way, we're trading one of your longtime core guys for a first round pick and a B level prospect because that's the plan. You make your plan, but you also you keep one eye on the future, but you can't be staring off in the distance while your team is actually having success. It's more about the now for me than the future. You can't keep chasing the future for me. You gotta be able to win too.
Well, look at the Rangers. They totally fucked up their plan.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Can we I'm gonna start a new segment today, right now. Can we do our ridiculous tweet of the week? Can we get that up, Vic? Because I came across one that just I had to read it like 3 times. Islander fans will like this one because I'm going to be on your boy's side here. I don't know who would not be, but there's like this whole Team Canada, Team USA, all this Olympic stuff when we're talking about who should be on rosters. It's such a fun game to play. But then every once in a while you come across something like this, and I'm like, what are people watching? And I'm Pierre LeBrun is usually right around everything, so I'm not questioning him at all what he's reporting. But I'm thinking to myself, if this is true, how is this even a conversation, fellas? You're telling me for the 8th D spot, Evan Bouchard and Matthew Schaefer? Come on, guys. What are we thinking here?
Arthur, you started off.
It's an unfair comparison to me based on what we've seen this year because Evan Bouchard is I think he's deadly for both teams when he's on the ice, especially at 5-on-5, right? He's there's an equal chance he's going to do something great for the Oilers as he's going to do something great for whatever team they're playing. Matthew Schaefer, to me, the Olympic debate is funny because Bedard and Celebrini, mostly Celebrini, like the seasons that they're having where you're just like, have you picked the roster based on who came to four nations, how it looks before the season starts, how much do you weigh this season? Schaefer is such a unicorn because he was on no one's radar before the season started, and now you're like, this kid can do everything. Obviously, he's not gonna play power play over Cale Makar. He's not gonna play power play probably over Shea Theodore, but the way that he skates and plays, and he may not even play at all. If everybody's healthy, he's just there for the ride, and even that's great too. But what he's shown, I think, and how he's invigorated the Islanders organization, and I know we've got a voicemail that Rupper can speak to that's going to come up in a little bit. Why wouldn't you have him on your team versus a guy who's, and I'm not going to paint him Bouchard with the one-dimensional brush, and I understand that if Makar gets hurt, the argument is you've got a guy who can run a power play, and Bouchard runs one of the best power plays in the league. But I feel like, are you looking for a kid that's going to grow into a huge role with the national team by being there and soaking everything up and his incredibly positive presence? Are you looking for a guy who we can sort of like throw in for spot duty if in case there's an injury? That is a debate to have, and I get that part of it. But I feel like, and I know Rupper, you're chomping at the bit here, I just feel like it's not really much of a debate based on the all-around game and based on the personality too.
Yeah, because I just think that Evan Bouchard his numbers in the playoffs are incredible. He's a player on the Edmonton Oilers that can really connect the dots between the D-core and the forwards, and we know about their powerful and explosive forwards. But like, I think in a tournament like the Olympics or any of these international tournaments, there's such short tournaments where like a game lost can derail everything. You need if this was like a D core you looked at for Team Canada and you said, all right, and I don't want to get too much into Team Canada here because this is mostly about Matthew Schaefer. I think this is a great nod for Islander fans to be like, oh, it's between those two. Well, cool, man. Matthew Schaefer's going to be playing in the Olympics. That's how I would take it.
Yeah.
But you're sitting here and you're like,
yeah, no one listening to our show is saying Bouchard.
yeah, no, I don't think so. You should be Edmonton shows they shouldn't be saying that either. But I think I'm wrong there that they probably are saying that Evan Bouchard should be there. But so if this was a D-core or a group for Team Canada that was lacking offensive punch, that's your guy. They got Cale Makar. They've got, I mean, if you want outside, I know it's a right-hand shot, so that's something that can come into play. But you've got also Jacob Chikrin's in the mix. Like, is he going to be there? You've got Shea Theodore. You got offensive guys. Like, you don't need Evan Bouchard if he's your eighth D, and anybody goes down and you slide him in. You don't know what that role is. How about if that role's on the third pair and you got to kill penalties? He's not. And he has those moments too. You said, Arthur, you're bang on. He'll pull you out of your seat. He'll pull you out of your seat if you're an Edmonton fan, but also he'll make you put your head in your palms too, because he'll have that one moment, that one play that'll be great, or that one play, that turnover that'll end up in the back of the net. And you can't afford that. You need predictability in the playoffs. And he doesn't provide predictability. Matthew Schaefer, all day long. What do you need him to do? You need him just to go out there and not get any points, but just give you solid minutes and just defend and just play the game the right way and be predictable for his coaches. Hands down, that's your guy. So I don't know. I saw that and I'm like, whoa, is this a conversation here? We'll have to keep watching. But if that is the conversation, congratulations, Matthew Schaefer. You're going
And I think it's a perfect segue into this voicemail that we have from an Islander fan. So, Vic, why don't we cue that up?
Hey, guys. Ironically, I'm a Rangers fan here, but I have a question about the Islanders and their situation right now. And, Rupper, maybe you can speak to this best having played in the league. But you see the success that the Islanders are having, and it just looks like they're playing a really solid style. They're having a lot of fun, scoring goals, rush chances. Just the vibes seem to be great, as Johnny would say. How much of that comes from a guy like Schaefer being on the team? Obviously, he brings a young energy and he's just a really, really good player. Seems like a hell of a kid overall, personality-wise. But just being in the locker room, what can a young player like that do to change just the entire culture of a team? You see like it happening with the Sharks this year at Celebrini, and Bedard's having a year, and that, the Blackhawks are kind of working their way up. So just seeing the Islanders and how different they're playing. Granted, I know they've gotten a new GM, but they still have Raw coaching them. They just look like a different team, and I guess I'm just wondering how much a young kid like that could really impact the entire team. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Nicole.
yeah, that's a great question.
Can I challenge you guys? Can I challenge you guys quick and see if you know ball?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Do you guys know the name Calvin Cambridge?
No.
Does that ring a bell at all?
No.
Okay. Calvin Cambridge is the character that Little Bow Wow plays in Like Mike, the kid who makes the NBA and gives the Los Angeles Knights a spark and gets them to the playoffs, where he's like Michael Jordan. That's what Matthew Schaefer kind of reminds me of, right? Like having a kid that dominates the pros, that has this youthful energy that everyone loves, everyone wants to be around. Like in the movie, Calvin Cambridge is asking Dirk Nowitzki for autographs, right? Like going up to Allen Iverson and giving him shit. Like it's just like that's what I see and feel from Schaefer. And back to the Olympic conversation, it's almost like, which guy would you rather bring on the trip just to have around, like for energy wise, right? Like imagine Matthew Schaefer and how much fun it would be to like just have that guy with you. Like he's just an awesome dude. So that's all I wanted to say. I think it's a fun analogy to compare him to like Mike, but Rupper, it's all you from here.
Anytime we can give a shout out to Little Bow Wow, it's a good show.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I that was a great movie. So I guess the one thing for me, I love that question, and let's take away the obvious, what he brings on the ice, right? Like what Matthew Schaefer does helps every team, and especially this Islanders team, who a lot of people, Islander fans, or even outside. I mean, I got some Islander buddies that are just like, for the last 3 years, what are we doing? Yeah, this is ridiculous. We keep running it back and all that stuff. So that soil's been turned here. And even though it is a lot of the same roster, now it feels good now. It feels different. So the physical, it's pretty obvious to see. I don't know. I'm not in that room, but I would assume the way we see Matthew Schaefer do interviews and all that stuff. But I think it's kind of universal across the board with young players. And I experienced it in my career is we have an appreciation of playing in the NHL, but when you're a veteran guy, things get jaded a little bit where you came in and you were that, when I say wild stallion, like you're just like coming in here, bright lights, like having fun. It doesn't feel like you have much responsibility but play hockey. And you guys get older, it becomes more of a job. You get into the weeds of, oh, this guy got this and this. It just starts getting a little jaded. And sometimes you just need a reminder of that youthful guy coming in here and just, man, life is good. Like life, it's just anybody looking back at kids like, oh, what I would do to be back there. And it's just interesting too, because some guys are in different stages of their life. They've got families, all this stuff. And I remember being in like Minnesota, and my routine every day before practice, I'd have like my hot tub routine, and Danny Heatley was that too. And we'd go sit in there, and then like the young guys would come in. At that time, the young guys were like Charlie Coyle, Jason Zucker, Jonas Brodin. Like these guys were kind of coming in the locker room, and it was just like, hey, what'd you guys do last night? Did you go anywhere? You go out to eat or anything? And just hearing these guys, they're just innocent, kind of, I don't know. They just like you're playing in the National Hockey League, and hearing these guys, the way they approach things or the way they kind of come in, and they look like they just roll out of bed. You know what I mean? Like when you get older, you get up, whether you have kids, you get your kids off to school, you go into practice, you got your stretching routine, you got all this stuff. I mean, I'm sitting there in the hot tub with Danny Heatley talking to these kids. These kids like roll in, they got bedhead. They're wearing sweatpants. Their shoes are untied. Like, I'm like, oh shit, man, that was a fun time. That was a fun time. So it ends up being just like, it's fun. It's fun to just almost relive it through them, where you're just like, and a guy like Schaefer, who's taken on the world and looking great doing it. It's great to see like these kids come in and they're just, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed kids that are just taking it all in. And it gives you something. And because otherwise you just get the guys, or in my time, doing crossword puzzles. It gets, waiting for practice to start. You're doing the extra stretching because you're getting older, and it's just it's fun to get that new liveliness in the room. So I think it's super, super valuable, even without the dominant play on the ice.
Mm-hmm. I guess we can maybe even lead this into the Rangers, Rep. I wanted to ask you because, again, like staying with this question, but you were on the Rangers when like a 21-year-old Derek Stepan was there. I think that was probably his second season. Like, what was a young Stepan like? I fucking love that guy. Like, he's full of energy, so fun to talk to. I can't imagine what he was like as a young 21-year-old in the NHL, or 22, however old he was.
Yeah, he was hilarious. So like when I was with the Rangers, so I lived in North Jersey, and on game days, a lot of times, like the team would give they'd give me the option of staying in the hotel across from MSG. They give it to everybody. So there wasn't many guys. Most guys were in Manhattan at the time. I think like Anton Strawman was the only guy that was up in like Westchester, and then I was in Jersey. But they'd give us the option, like, hey, you can stay across the street at the hotel. A lot of times we'd pregame skate up in Westchester, and then you drive down, and then we just park and then just go to the hotel. So we don't have to deal with traffic, because that was obviously an issue. Just ask Mika to manage that. So we would do things like that. And what ended up being funny is like, I migrated for those reasons I just said. It was just, and I like them. They're great guys, but like Ryan McDonough and Derek Stepan, they lived in the same building. I think they were literally their apartments were above each other directly, like not like down the hall. I think it was literally like, whatever. I'm just making up numbers, like 1221, and right below was like 1121, and they were right on top of each other. So it was cool. So I would go over there and we just go and we'd play PlayStation, just play some games, and then there's times I go to like their place and I just take my pregame nap on the couch, or I'd go to Brandon Dubinsky's place, take a nap on his couch. It was fun because these kids are like living in New York City, and but Derek Stepan was just like same thing, just like funny kid, funny guy. He was an important role for that team, but just he's learning it, and so it wasn't necessarily like, oh, you're helping him, show him the ropes. It was more just like you're watching him soak this in, and it was just fun, and it made it extra fun. So yeah, I mean, it was a cool time watching some of those players come along.
As we transition to discussing the Rangers, I just want to point out Nicole, Ranger fan, calls in and said, like, man, the Islanders are having so much fun. Just the wistfulness in her voice. And Johnny has given us the same, like, yeah, the Islanders look like they're having so much fun, and my Rangers, just the womp music playing in the background. If you're a Ranger fan right now, it's incredible the waves that you ride. Like the Rangers, 24, 22. Islanders would have killed for that 2 years before. The Islanders were going to the semifinals. The Rangers were still rebuilding or retooling or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And now, why can't we have all three of them be good at once? Like what?
That's how we started this whole thing. That's all I want. I want us all three to be good so we could talk shit, get these fan bases talking shit to each other. Like it's just, it never happens at the same time.
And now it's depressing the hell out of me that the Ranger fan who I know the best sitting right here with us is just like, boy, the Islanders look like they're having a good time, don't they?
Yeah, but I would like, I mean, you know me by now. Like I appreciate watching good hockey. Like I don't care what the team is, like I've always said, I'm a bigger hockey fan than I am a Ranger fan. Like I've actually been
now you are. That's for fucking sure.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of the Minnesota Wild. Like
when these guys are going to Eastern Conference. These guys
he's
are
like,
when
the Rangers are going good. He's just like, I don't even know what's happening in the league. I just haven't been focused on my guys. And now it's just like, who's really good? The Wild and the Islanders. He's just looking around for anything to grasp onto. All right, good.
That's good call out.
Your shitty Rangers now, Johnny. Let's do it.
Should we start with the voicemail? I think we have 2 Ranger voicemails. So let's, we didn't do voicemails on Tuesday's show. So let's do the voicemails that we have today. Vic, so why don't you lead us in with one if you can, please?
Hey guys, I wanted to ask about Vincent Trocheck and the possibility the Rangers might move him if they head towards a reset. We know how valuable centers are in this market, and it's very possible the Rangers can entertain moving Trocheck for the right price. With Brock Nelson, he was moved for a pretty substantial return. Trocheck being a little bit different because he still has term on his contract. But I was curious about some possible destinations that he can go to, what kind of return he could give the Rangers. I see Carolina Hurricanes fans on Twitter saying they would love Trocheck back, and I could definitely see that happening, although it would hurt to see for sure. I could definitely see Trocheck going back to Carolina. What do you guys think we could get back for him? I was thinking probably a Trocheck for Svechnikov to start, partially because of the money, and Carolina has an abundance of wingers. They need to solidify that second line center role. So maybe that could work. I'm curious what you guys think.
Thank you, Gabe, for the voicemail.
Is that Gabe Perreault? He wants to flip him for
he needs a spot.
Well, the trade for Svechnikov, like the Rangers don't really have a luxury of centers either. So, like, if you're getting rid of Trocheck, I don't even know what, like, are you calling back up Juuso Parssinen and he's playing center? Like the Rangers don't have many centers to run with here. So that leaves them in a pretty tough spot. So I don't know if that's the move. As far as a return goes for Trocheck, I looked up what the return exactly was for Brock Nelson. So they sent Nelson and Dufour, who was a prospect, and they got Cal Ritchie. It's Shillington, right? Oliver Shillington is how you say his name. a
Yeah, he
2026
didn't
first
stay,
round
though.
pick. He didn't stay.
It's a first,
2020.
it was a first in Cal Ritchie, and that
Okay.
I think I was reporting on it at the time. I think a lot of it was
Mhm.
predicated on the Avs wanted to sign Brock Nelson, and they obviously ultimately did. They didn't do it right
Yeah.
then, but Lou set his price. There was a trade to Winnipeg that he had. I don't know who the prospect was that was coming back, but Nelson vetoed that one because he had control of that. And Colorado came calling and said, "We'll meet your price," which is really, the first was kind of an obvious one, but Cal Ritchie, your top center prospect, they went for it. I think it was a win-win for both teams. Brock Nelson's been important for the Avs. Complicating things, I think, for Trocheck, got 3 years left, which to some teams would be good. I think the way that he's played the last year plus maybe gives you a little bit of pause. I was looking up the other day, this was before last night's game, and obviously last night's game didn't seem like the Rangers were storming the net here and coming up with a ton of scoring chances. But 6 games before that, where the Rangers won one of them, Vincent Trocheck, one high danger scoring chance at 5-on-5 in 6 games. So you're not looking at a guy who's, he is what he is right now, which is, on a good team, is he a number 2 center? Or is he a number 3 center right now? You kind of, maybe you'd have to sort of decide that, but he's not a guy who's generating a ton of offense for you. If that's what you're looking for, he does a lot of good things. So yeah, the return for a guy like that, like we talked about, centers are at a premium. You're sure to get a high draft pick, probably a first round pick. Are you sure to get a roster player back, a center back? I don't think so. I think it really depends. And the other thing is, Gabe used the word reset. Retool is the big euphemism. Mostly, like, if you're trading Vincent Trocheck, that means you've already traded Artemi Panarin, and we'll get into that in a moment because we've been talking about that. I posted on X about that. You're trading those 2 guys. That's a rebuild. You are not resetting. You are not retooling. You are the much more dreaded R word, which is a rebuild. And I don't know if they can fully commit to that, because that's, James Dolan just went through that, and he bagged the entire front office after a few years because it was taking too long. Like, where are they right now if they trade those 2 guys?
So you mentioned that, and all I think of is that I can't imagine a world right now where Chris Drury would say rebuild, retool, whatever it is, because I don't think he would have a job if that was the words that
Agreed.
were coming out of his mouth. So
Agreed.
that's where it gets interesting for me, and why it's so pivotal for obvious reasons. The Rangers, the next, I don't know, put a date on it, whatever you want, if we're going to go all the way up to the Olympics or wherever it is, but like, they're kind of pot committed here. And so I don't know, do you just keep leaning into this group because that's what they've done? And that's, I just don't think, I think some heavy changes would happen before any kind of rebuild took place, where you're just selling off some of these pieces.
Well, that's what I think too, and you guys can both correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a GM by any means, whatever. But general managers, I feel like when they're this deep in, Chris Drury is going to do everything he can to make this team as good as he can make them now, and whatever the problem is going to be the next guy's problem. Like, I think that's kind of how it's going to go, right? Like, that's how GMs operate. Chris Drury has been here now for what? This is season 5, 6. I think 2021 is when he got the job, right? So
yeah, 5, I guess.
And again, like, the plan has been make the playoffs, try to build a contender, like rebrand this team overnight, not retool, not rebuild, rebrand, right? Like, that's kind of been the wording, is find that alpha type guy, Rupper, I think that you've talked about in JT, and maybe try to bring in more of those types. So I don't see them moving on from Vinny, and Vinny was a big reason why they went and got JT Miller. So you bring in JT Miller, you name him captain, and then you're going to trade away the guy he really wanted to come here for? Like, I just don't see that happening. But let's go into the Panarin thing, because I think that's a hot topic. I don't know which one of you wants to lead that conversation, but I feel like we're going to go in a couple different directions here in regards to Artemi Panarin.
Arthur, you put that tweet out, so you lead.
Yeah.
You lead with it.
Okay. My neck's on the line. Yeah, I mean, I think I think just hearing whatever, the people that I talk to, and again, it's not the biggest circle. I'm no insider, but it sure sounds like Artemi Panarin and the Rangers are headed towards a divorce if things keep going the way that they're going. I imagine that there was a lot of conversations in last offseason about an extension, and that stuff came out where the Rangers clearly wanted him to take something that was shorter term, not an 8-figure situation. And I don't think Artemi Panarin and his agent, Paul Theophanis, who happens to be Kirill Kaprizov's agent, you can take maybe some cues from that situation where Kaprizov, obviously a lot younger, set his price, didn't budge, and got it from Billy Guerin, $17 million a year. It's a crazy contract, but he stood firm and he got what he wanted. So I think Panarin is a little bit older. Obviously, he's coming off a great free agent contract, but he's coming off also being the greatest free agent signing in franchise history, maybe one of the 10 best free agent signings in the league ever, just with the production he's had the last 6+ years. He's been amazing. So he's in a position now with the cap going up. He's not taking a pay cut. If it's 3 years and $12 million, if it's 4 years and $11.5 million, whatever he was looking for, it was not anything where he's given any discounts to the Rangers. So now here we're in this season where he's still producing, not as much as he used to because the team's not as offensively focused as they used to be, but he's still the main guy who brings them offense. And now we're still in this mediocrity situation. So now starting to hear a little bit more like maybe without a contract, maybe a guy with a full no move who can dictate where he could go is starting to accept the reality that the Rangers are going to move on from him, whether it's during the season or after the season. So maybe he's more open to something moving. I'd put out there maybe Florida. Colorado was a team that was deep into it with him in free agency before he went to the Rangers. I think it was Colorado, the Rangers, and the Islanders it came down to. And if he wants to win, no better place than Colorado. It's obviously a different situation this year with the playoff salary cap being in effect. So teams will have to sort of finesse that, and I'm no cap expert, so that's something for teams internally to figure out. And I don't know if Florida can do it with Barkov still waiting in the wings and Tkachuk waiting in the wings. I don't know if Tampa can do it with what they're always seemingly in cap hell, especially as you get to the playoffs. So you start looking for teams that could make this work, that might have the assets to make it work and the cap space to make it work. And I think this is going to be an ongoing situation. If they don't break out with 5 or 6 wins in a row to really get back in the thick of it, I think we're headed into a Panarin trade watch as we go towards the deadline. And man, that is going to be a seismic move. It makes a lot of sense to do it if you're not going to be in it and you're not going to re-sign him. But that's going to be, we had it with Quinn Hughes where the insiders are coming out with like, hey, what about Philly or what about this team? There's, we're going to get 30 teams named basically before it happens maybe. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And it's got to be depressing for Ranger fans to know that this guy who's been lights out, production wise in the last few years, maybe not as great in the playoffs as you'd like him to be, but certainly in the regular season, one of the 5 or 6 best players in the league. Again, another guy who's walking out the door, who's been part of the core, and how do you replace him?
So this is a really unique spot for Artemi Panarin because, in my opinion, I think you have to take this into consideration too. Let's say that gets traded before the deadline. On paper, for me, just think about the situation. On paper, this will be his best opportunity to win a Stanley Cup, more so than where he would sign in free agency. And what I mean by that is, I agree. I don't think he should take a discount. He's been a very consistent point producer. If a team signs him for a big deal, as far as the cap hit, it doesn't even matter what the term is. Those types of teams who swing big like that aren't necessarily contenders. They might be playoff teams that are, if you're adding a huge piece like that at free agency, you're probably not all that close. You understand what I'm saying as far as being a contender to win a Stanley Cup. So this would be kind of the quote unquote perfect storm for Artemi Panarin to go chase down a cup if it's not going to be in New York. So with that full no move clause, I mean, that to me is the arms race we're seeing in the Central Division's really interesting, because I don't think Billy Guerin's done in Minnesota, and we've talked about that. Where I think Colorado's not going to just stay pat. I mean, they're always going to be looking to upgrade here. And a team like Dallas, I think those three teams are going to be circling around everybody in every situation. Now, I would think if Artemi Panarin waives his no move, it would be to a team like that, a team that was going to, and you feel pretty confident it's going to be. They're a true contender, not a loosely like, oh, this team's a contender. No, like those are the big dogs. Outside of that, I don't really see him. I don't think he's going to waive to go anywhere else. Now, is there teams that need him?
I have one in
Absolutely.
mind.
The one team I think that needs him the absolute most is the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, is that anything the Rangers would ever do? I don't know. I mean, you might not have many choices, but then let's not forget, you're going to have to go back to the player and say, is that something that you want to do? And I don't know what his evaluation is or would be of that team. So it's very, very interesting. But I also think there's a situation where this player loves being in New York, wanted to extend in New York. That didn't get done, and might be totally fine just waiting this thing out and getting to free agency. Now, if that happens, it can start getting really loud in New York. And we've seen how some of those no move clauses in the past were maybe taken by some of the players. I don't know. It's very interesting, and it's only going to get louder unless this team, and I mean by the way they play, kind of chooses their path. Are we a playoff team or are we not? If they're a playoff team, I don't think anything happens. But if they start falling off a little bit here, even more, then that's going to get real tough, that decision with Artemi Panarin.
I think if they're within 10 points, they're going to hang on to him. And I think if they're not within 10 points, you see him go. But like a team that, again, Chris Drury has traded with over these past 2 years is Pat Verbeek and the Anaheim Ducks. And you got to think that Artemi Panarin would be a great fit there. They got the money available. They're a young, fun team that's knocking on the door of the playoffs that, couldn't hurt to have another guy added to the offensive skill that they got going. And I think they have like Alex Killorn playing in their top six right now. Like you just bump Alex Killorn down to the third line, which is like where a guy like that usually fits better. And, imagine Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlson, Artemi Panarin. Like that's a fucking loaded forward group. I like love Cutter Gauthier. I think he's an unreal player. I love watching him play. But I don't want to talk about like other teams. I do think though, opening night next year, no matter what, Artemi Panarin is not wearing a Ranger jersey. Like I think that's kind of that's where I'm at.
But don't you feel like if we're gonna, so I just feel like with the way the last season went, and when you look at the discrepancy over the last few seasons in New York, it kind of felt like you had to keep Panarin. That doesn't mean at any cost. It doesn't mean that you just give him whatever he wants. But this is a guy that I think is, for this Rangers team, like we just talked about, where they're in it and they're in the middle of it and they're pot committed. Like that's a guy you can't let go without understanding or fully knowing who this team is. Mm-hmm. I feel like that contract needed to get done before the season started. It had to get done before the season started, because if you looked at it, in hindsight's 2020, but if you looked at it and said, what if this goes south? What if things aren't good? Now we kind of have a mess on our hands, because this player could walk for nothing because he's got control in this situation. That's why I think it was like before the season started, it should have been exhausted. Every option should have been exhausted to extend him. And if you couldn't find the right thing that you were comfortable with, then so be it. But I don't think it came to that. I think it came to an offer that was rejected right away, and that was that. And now all of a sudden, now it's getting to the nitty gritty, and I think it could get ugly.
Yeah, I think it will get ugly too, to be honest.
And as Repper points out, he's got a full no move. He can control it. He could go to Chris Drury if they're still a 500 team in a month and say, I only want to go one place. I only want to go to Colorado, where you've got to like, make the money work. And if Colorado knows that that's the case,
all leverage.
Haul back. You're not getting you're certainly not getting a haul back. You have the money free to sign somebody. And I guess right now, if you're picking out a name in free agency, it's probably Alex Tuch is the guy that the Rangers would gun for. But you're giving Alex Tuch. I understand he's 6 years younger than Panarin, but like, so you're giving Alex Tuch $11 million per year. You're giving him that contract that you didn't want to, the cap number that you didn't want to give Artemi Panarin. Different kind of player. I understand he's a great player, and I would imagine you'd want him on your team. But is he replacing the skill set, the dynamism that Panarin brings? I don't think so. And we're already seeing a team that struggles to score. So it's tense, man. It's tense in the Garden, I think, right now, because they're not where they need to be. And now you start having people, it comes out that they were making offers for Quinn Hughes, whether they were in the running for real or not. But that sends one message. Now we're hearing about Artemi Panarin and whether he could go. And if that's the case, they're going to trade him, wherever they are in the standings. We're talking about Vincent Trocheck. Do you start offering him around? This is not the kind of talk you want around this franchise. It kind of erases that 3-year window of good feelings of 2 Eastern Conference final trips where suddenly all Ranger fans say that like the Men in Black flashy thing that erases your memory. It just wiped that shit out. And now we're back in 2018 where it's like, man, we suck and we're just stockpiling assets and we're sending letters out. Bad place to be.
Johnny, let me ask you this. I'm not trying to poo-poo on your boy.
You can.
But what would Laugh look like if there was no Panarin?
I think that's the number one problem with the team. I think the fact that he hasn't elevated into someone that can be the guy has really halted this whole thing. And I think there's no way around that. Like Artemi Panarin, I've said like Artemi Panarin, I don't know if he's a superstar, but he's a star. Like he's an elite level player. He's a star, but he's not Eichel. He's not McKinnon. He's not McDavid. He's not Barkov. He's not even like a Rantanen, right? Like he's not a guy who really gets to that second gear, right? Like he's got a great first gear, but he doesn't get to that second gear. And I don't think with him as your best player, best forward, you're good enough to win the cup. And obviously he'd be the best forward on a lot of teams, but not the greatest teams, right? Like he's a good number 2, a great number 2, maybe the best number 2, but you need a better number 1. And I thought like Lafreniere could have been that 1-2 punch with Panarin. Like 2 years ago, I thought Lafreniere was elevating to become that guy. And that guy has no-showed in the last season, I guess last 1 year. The first 10 games, he was great last year. Then I don't know where it went. But because Lafreniere hasn't been able to become, this point per game, he couldn't even crack the 5 forward unit power play. And I think you can blame it on the 4 coaches. You can blame it on the up and down, the fourth line start to his career, or third line, whatever you want to call it. But at some point, the players got to fucking take it by the balls and hang on to it, right? And I don't think we've seen that from him. And I really thought we would after what we saw in 2024. And that's the biggest disappointment is because you're left here wondering, like, we've seen it. Like, we've seen the capability. And where does it go? Like, who is going to bring it out in him besides him? It's got to be him, right? It's not going to be Mike Sullivan. It's not going to be Gerard Gallant. It's not going to be Peter Laviolette. It's got to be him that does it. And I just I hate being hard on the guy because I truly love watching him as a player. Like when he's on his game, he's a fucking fun guy to watch. He really is. But he's not on his game enough. And I think that's what's really frustrating, and that you never know what you're going to get on any given night from 13.
I'm just scared to see what it looks like if there's no bread.
Yeah, they're going to be. They're already trying to get blood from a stone to score goals with him in the lineup right now. Gosh. Yeah. Johnny, I'm getting a preview. I'm getting a preview now for Johnny when you have kids and they disappoint you. This is like Laugh with this is going to be your first dad lecture when your kid's 16 and they like skip school or something. This is going to be, you can play this video back in your mind being like, that's how you felt about Laugh. I like it.
But the problem, the bigger problem to me was like in the younger days when things weren't going well, he's still like, I'm not saying right now he looks like he doesn't give a fuck, but there was anger. Like conference finals, he was like fighting Stamkos against Tampa. Like him and Stamkos were going at it. Like he played an angry game. Like he was throwing the body. Like he had that like motor that doesn't seem to be there right now. So if you're playing bad, if you look like you give a fuck, I don't care.
Yeah. His first playoff shift in 22, and he had a decent year that year, but he was still really young. First shift, I remember at the Garden against Pittsburgh in game 1, he gets off the bench and he makes a beeline, and he just misses blowing up John Marino in the corner. And the sound that it made when he hit the boards in a loud building, I was like, who the fuck was that guy? Where has he been? And he just started out 100 miles an hour, and he kept going for most of that playoff run, and he did it again in 24. The challenge obviously is to do that. It's hard to do for 82 games, but if you do it for 70,
60,
it's funny you said that.
Yeah,
it's funny you said that, because that's the exact same thing. When you can get it on television, but the exact same thing I've said before with him, when you're in the house and he's on his game like that, like a bull in a china shop, it sounds different. He gets in there on the forecheck. It's just different. Some guys hit, and it's not just the glass noise, because that can change from arena to arena. I don't know how the sound. It just, you can almost feel how much more impactful it is from all the other hits that are happening. So he's still got that ability. And I'm not that my ship hasn't sailed on him yet.
Yeah, me either. I'm not writing him off yet.
I still think that I like him. The reason why I brought that up is just because to get to this level where we are feeling this way about him, it's had to, Artemi Panarin's influenced that a lot. So can he still develop and be that and take another step if there's no Artemi Panarin? Like, that's something where I would have liked to have seen Panarin's extended back in the summer.
Yeah. And like one more thing, like that Panarin year, that 120-point year, I thought Loff had a big part in that. Like the play that Barzal made to Heineman the other night. The play Barzal made to Heineman the other night, where he comes in on his backhand and goes cross seam on the backhand to Heineman on the one-timer. I saw Lafreniere feed Panarin like that at least 10 times in the 2023-24 season. Like, I don't know where that's gone. That East-West elite, quick puck-moving hockey. I don't know where that's gone. But we only have time for one more voicemail. We only have one more voicemail, so I want to get to that quick before we wrap up today's show. It's been a great show today. So much fun. Every show is fucking different, and that's why I love it. But let's play this voicemail, and then we'll get out of here. This is from Kaylee.
Hey guys, big Rangers fan here. I was wondering your guys' perspective on Igor's frustration. We've seen throughout his whole career he can kind of lose his temper sometimes, and we saw in the game against Anaheim he was going down the tunnel slamming his stick, and even in the game against Montreal you could visibly see he was frustrated in that whole game. So I was just wondering, in your guys' opinion, is it a good thing that he's showing emotion and getting into scrums and is clearly frustrated they're not winning, or is it more of a liability and you got to keep your temper under control? Thanks, guys. And also, Johnny, love Morning Cup of Hockey. It's a must listen for me every day.
Thanks, Kaylee. Appreciate that. May I take this one now? That's cool.
Yeah.
That was mine.
Yeah, sure.
I think Igor Shesterkin should be showing more of this. I think the one thing I respect about him, though, and I think we've talked about this maybe on an earlier show, you think back to the first week of the season, second week of the season, Stolarz called out the fucking Leafs. Stolarz, a guy, like, he was calling out his own teammates. Igor has never done that. So whenever Igor is frustrated, I'm sure he's frustrated a lot with the guys in front of him, he kind of takes it out on himself. And that's what I love about the competitor in Igor Shesterkin. He last night, Arthur, I don't know if you saw the post game, but he said something about Valley, I think. I don't know what he said, but he was like, hopefully Valiquette, like, or I think he said Wallacette, like appreciates the game I had or something like that. I don't know what it was. But I thought that was like just funny when Igor shows personality, because usually he's like a pretty like angry. Yeah, he's like a very like
he's a very very dry, funny guy.
Yeah.
I fucking love talking to him. He's always got a couple of one-liners. He's got a ton of personality, and obviously the language barrier. He doesn't love doing interviews on camera, so that's hard for a wide audience to see. But I used to when I was in that room, I'd put, like when last season, I think Celebrini stopped him from his great
He
goal
should
in
be in
life.
school.
Goal. Right. He should be in school. Or when Panarin shaved his head, I asked him, like, what'd you do when you saw him with the shaved head? And he goes, I cried. Just like deadpan, like no emotion. He's great. So when he's smashing his stick coming off the ice, he's pissed. They stopped playing after an empty net goal. It goes back in. They're down 3-1. There's 40 seconds left. And they let a D walk down Broadway and beat him with 3 seconds left. Like, that's an insult to the goalie. Like, he's allowed to be pissed off. I don't think we're in Alexander Georgiev, Tony D territory here, where he's going to be taking a swing as they come off the ice.
Maybe they should do that though. But Johnny, you mentioned that, and I remember you said that at the beginning of the season, and I think it's so true. And I never thought about it. Is some of the stuff that Igor has seen last year, he's never said anything sideways, never.
Mm-mm.
And I give him so much credit because not every goalie, and I play with some guys who are good dudes. You're human. You're frustrated. And sometimes, even if it's not direct, it's like an indirect shot, some way, shape, or form. We see it all the time. He never, ever, ever has like called out the team and for the lack of play in front of him. Now, with all that being said, I love the call because Hank was the exact same way. Hanky, I could tell you, I played with him for 2 years. I bet you there was 20 paper towel dispensers on the road that have been shattered by Henrik Lundqvist in between periods, post game. Like, there'd be games where, no word of a lie, like we'd win the game. It would be in there, and then you'd hear in the bathroom on the road just fucking smashing his stick on paper towel dispenser because he was so competitive that he let that late goal in or something happen there. So we'd have fun with it. And we had the right guys on the team to kind of joke around, like Dan Girardi, Mark Stahl would like mess around and kind of get Hanky back. But you got to that's what made Hanky great. He's a fierce competitor. And I think that's the same thing with Igor. As long as you're not showing up teammates, doing whatever, and I don't believe Igor does that. I love the passion. And quite frankly, there's times like last year where he was showing emotion on plays like around the net where guys would take an extra stab while he's covering a puck, and he'd hop up ready to throw down. And I'm like, thank God someone's showing it. You know what I mean? So I love it. Yeah. Great question, but I think he handles it pretty good in the right way.
Yeah, I agree. And again, like even the body language, it's never bad. Like Rupper, the Hank stories, you hear so many stories from Hank's teammates where it's like sometimes he'd let one in that like he'd stare at the defenseman and be like, what
he'd stare down.
Like that was like a famous thing that he did. Like Shattenkirk told me a great story about that, like in one of his like first games with the Rangers. And you don't really see Igor ever point the finger. Like if anything, he's always disappointed in himself that he didn't stop the puck. No matter what, it could be a backdoor tap in and he'd be pissed at himself.
Yeah.
So that's why I have a lot of respect for Shesterkin. And again, I think the stick slam against Anaheim, to Arthur's point, was more about that late goal than anything else.
Yeah.
Like he was probably pissed that he let in the late one. But that's all I really got on this topic. We didn't touch the Gabe Perreault stuff. He scored his first goal last night. Obviously he got called up with Hoffman. We don't really have time to dive into that today. We can save that stuff for Monday because the Rangers play on Saturday afternoon. I'm sure those two will be in the lineup again. But any final thoughts, guys, before we kind of wrap up today's show?
Just thinking about the last few items I got to run to the mall to get now. So,
all right. Well, we'll give you some time back, as like the corporate bosses say. But as always, our show is presented by Novig, the future of sports betting. On Novig, you play against real users, not the house, and it's the only commission-free exchange. So you keep every dollar you win. You'll get better odds than traditional sportsbooks, meaning you're 10 times more likely to win in the long run. So choose the best odds or offer your own. Trade Novig coins for fun or Novig cash to win real prizes. Sign up with code Daily Faceoff in all caps to get $50 in Novig coins when you spend $5 on your first purchase. Available in most states. You must be 21 or older to play with no purchase necessary. And we're going to take the Islanders on the money line tonight. They're taking on the Vancouver Canucks. They are on home ice. They're minus 137. The Canucks have won, I think, 2 games in a row now since the Quinn Hughes trade. Can't think they'll keep this up. So the Islanders should get them back down to earth tonight with a win on home ice against Vancouver. That's going to wrap up today's show. We'll be back on Monday or Tuesday. We'll keep you guys posted on when this show gets released next week, but there will be no show next Friday. Hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see some more Tri-State hockey content, don't forget to leave a like and comment on the video below, and also subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel.